Well, good morning again. Sorry for the delay there. We're going to get started. Addressing today's topic, how to help your child reach their fullest potential in mathematics. Even though fullest there, just the grammar is not always correct. So please, for students who are planning to take the SAT, ACT, don't use fullest in that context. But anyways, this is just of an informal title. The focus is how to help your child reach their full math potential. Free live webinars. We'll be doing these from time to time, helping parents to navigate the landscape of mathematics in the AI revolution. So my name is Amos Tarfa. I'm the CEO of the Learning Institute for Excellence and author of Counter to Calculus, or um, Math Curriculum Framework. We're going to talk about a few things. So again, briefly, um, I work as a medical physicist and I love helping students to master mathematics. Let me make sure the audio here is good. Let's see. Let's make sure we're good on audio. Okay, perfect. Um, you know what? I should have also. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, perfect. Next time we have these webinars, I promise we'll get the glitch, less glitches. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at a few things. So I'm gonna actually shorten some of this time because I want to allow us to have more time for discussion. We're going to talk about this I'm bad at math idea, or the myth that people think, oh, I'm bad at math, and maybe you can, when we open the floor for questions, you can bring up that any objections you hear from students. We're going to talk about 3 strategies to help children to flourish in math, and then we're going to answer questions, talk about next steps, free resource. I have a lot of free resources. I don't want to bombard people with free resources, but if there's any way we can support or specific needs in your math community, let us know. So, just not a math person is a very expensive lie, I would say, in education. Math ability is not fixed. It's not a fixed genetic trait, but a skill developed through practice, proper instruction, and a supportive environment. The question is not if a child can learn math, but how. Now, I'm going to tell a story about my own math experience. When I was younger, I remember learning equations and getting stuck. And when I got stuck, I thought that, okay, maybe this is not going to work out as I hoped, in understanding things easily, because I did pretty well in school. But when I got stuck with equations, I remember my brother sitting me down and showing me how to tackle those equations. What ended up happening is that I got over that mountain, that problem I was facing, and the rest is history, they would say, right? So today I'm a medical physicist. I've completed a year of my PhD in chemistry and physical chemistry, and all of this would not be possible if I had not gone through those difficult periods of mathematics that I thought I was facing. So when students say, I'm just not a math person, we have to encourage them to realize that they might hit roadblocks, but they have to find ways to get around it. Now more than ever before, there are so many tools to help them get around those roadblocks. So I think that one of the things that educators need to do is to make sure they are trained in building scaffolding strategies and changing mindsets, because a big part of this battle is going to be the mindset. Now, I've been doing a lot of research on the topic of math gene. Like, do people have math genes? And what we're finding out is that it's not so much the issue of math gene as much as it is about math environment and teacher, because the right teacher and the right environment will allow certain students to do very well in math that you might even begin to wonder if they have the math gene. Now, there are some genetic discussions that have been had about certain children that have certain tendencies, and the problem with the math gene hypothesis is that it almost reduces the importance of the agency of or initiative that the students need to take. So what I would recommend instead is a model that focuses more on what are the 10 factors I can bring into this child's life that would allow this child to reach their fullest potential. So I think that having the right teacher, having the right environment is going to be very critical. Okay, every math concept was discovered by a real person solving a real problem. But before I go on, let me actually make a quick claim about this. There is a branch of mathematics called pure mathematics. And I think one of the reasons why students struggle sometimes is because we teach them concepts in pure mathematics. And then the teacher says sometimes when the students put up their hand and ask, when am I ever going to use this? There are teachers that will answer that by saying, well, someday you're going to use it. Okay, let me just break the news right now. I think this will help in education. We should not lie to students. Not every math topic they learn will have an application. And that is okay. When Euclid wrote about prime numbers, as you can see, we have Euclid, Euler, and Newton. I was gonna say, well, actually, after I started saying it, I said maybe I should have given us a pop quiz in the chat. But maybe in the chat, feel free to tell me who are your favorite mathematicians. Newton is not actually one of mine. I think he's just one of the greatest. Euler is my favorite. Euler, and then my favorite scientist is James Clerk Maxwell. So, who's your favorite mathematician and scientist? But I wanted to say, when we look at the issue with math education, we have to help students realize that there are topics that they are learning that don't have any immediate practical application, but that will help them learn to think better, or those topics inherently are beautiful. Now, I'm not going to lie. There is a topic in pre-calc that is not beautiful. I think it needs to be abolished. But I'm not. But I mean, we're still teaching it. But the reason why I say it needs to be abolished is because the topic takes like 30 minutes to do. It's finding the roots of a polynomial or of a greater degree than x squared. So it's this higher level polynomial problems, and it takes like 30 minutes sometimes to do. And the reality is there is no application for those kids to see that in use in real life. Most of the work you do in upper level physics and so on, you're going to be using Mathematica. Nobody's factoring polynomials by hands. But if you're doing it and having fun, that's great. But here's why I say it needs to be maybe abolished, is because some kids will end up giving up on math when they encounter topics like that. Was it worth it? I don't think so. So my point is, and it's kind of like a joke, but you can take it or leave it. I think that we need to help students realize that not every topic they're going to learn is going to have practical application, and that's okay. But when you think about the AI revolution right now, how many topics within AI were thought of as useless at one point, and now everybody knows about them, or everybody sees it in action? So there are some topics that don't have immediate application that will get application later on. There are some topics that don't have immediate application that whether or not they will have application is irrelevant because they are beautiful. We need to start helping students learn that math is like art or music. It's beautiful and you need to enjoy it. And if your students are not enjoying math, I'm really sorry to say there's a problem. Because I've not met many people who say I hate music or I hate art. It's how we teach it that is a problem. And we need to help our students to learn how to learn and then how to navigate the terrain. Because if your student is not good at math in the AI revolution, it is going to be one of the biggest disadvantages for them. So we need to find ways to help them to love math. And that involves teaching some of them, especially high schoolers, how to build their own AI models. Our students need to build their own models, or at least get an application that will get them learning how to input different materials and different prompts that can help the AI do better in giving them what they need to do better in learning. There is no reason, like there's just no reason on earth right now why a student should have a C in math class, except if the student doesn't know how to use AI, doesn't like the teacher is making everything hard for them. But if a student is trying and they have AI tools that they're using responsibly, and their parents are there to support them, and they're in communication with their teachers, I just don't see how they couldn't at least be getting a B or an A even. So I think that how we teach math is the big thing we need to solve. Because we don't teach math by showing students the real people behind the problems. We teach calculus, for example, without telling the students why calculus even exists. How many students know that Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz, but let's focus on Newton, but those are the co-inventors, and Isaac Newton was studying, the works of people like Galileo and understanding astronomy, and he came up with concepts within the calculus to help us understand the universe better. So if we start with the problem that we're trying to solve, I think we're going to see that more students can reach their full math potential. Newton definitely was close to he reached his math potential. Euclid was a boss. I mean, Euclid lived like 2,300 years ago, and his textbook is still one of the most popular geometry textbooks in the world. Euclid's Elements of Geometry, which we're going to be studying with some of our students in the fall. If we study Euclid, we will be reaching our math potential if we study Euclid diligently. And then my person here, Leonard Euler, the greatest, the GOAT, they say in basketball, probably the greatest mathematician ever, right? Until maybe your kids or your students can come on and maybe rank up with him. But Euler, Newton, and Gauss are usually called the best three or the top three mathematicians in some rankings. Sometimes there's arguments about can you even rank them? Okay, let's say you can't even rank them. Euler is just literally one of the most exceptional human beings. And I would argue that Euler reached his math potential. Why? Because Euler went blind and still published about 50 papers a year as a mathematician. That's crazy. Like, how is that even possible? How can you publish 50 papers a year and still, like, you're blind and you're publishing 50 papers a year? Like, he kept going. And apparently, even until the week he died, he was doing math. So we need to realize math is beautiful. And if these people found problems that they could solve with mathematics, we need to help our students begin to see the connections between the problems they're facing and how math can help them solve those problems. Let me give you one quick example. I landed in an airport in Germany last year, coming back from Nigeria. And you know how in the airport there's the monitor that tells you the different times of different flights? And there were different people on the monitor. There were different people standing looking at the monitor, and they were confused as to what time their flight was supposed to be. And when am I supposed to go to my gate and this and that? And there was just some panic, a little bit of panic. So I looked at the dashboard, I looked at my boarding pass, and I realized, oh, whatever the time on your boarding pass, right, minus 50 or whatever. I just came up with some simple expression of whatever your flight time minus this and that, and it'll get you to your boarding. Like, I was able to just figure it out. Basic one-step or two-step equation issue. But the point is, there were people that were confused, and they realized, oh, I knew where I was going, and they were like, do you know where you're going? I'm like, oh yeah, I was about to leave. And I said, yeah, you just take that and you do this and that. And I showed them the kind of the input function. So when they gave me their flight time, I told them exactly, yep, look on the dashboard over there, it's going to show up over there. Boom, their flight showed up. Another person was like, wait, what did you guys just do? Boom, showed them their flight. Another person, when I was learning math concepts, I never thought to myself, I'm going to apply this concept in a random German airport someday. The way of thinking, the mathematical way of thinking, is a critical thing we need to teach people. Here's what I'm going to recommend to parents. I know this is going to sound controversial, but I'm not budging on this because I'm watching what's going on with the AI revolution, and I'm like, you can't play with your child's math education. Like, you can't. I think that there should be no breaks for mathematics for the next 5 years for anybody. Nobody. If your child is in school for the next 5 years, they cannot take summer off. They cannot take longer than 2 to 3 weeks off from math. They can't. Why? Do you know that one of the challenges in AI right now, what they're trying to do, some of the breakthroughs in certain domains of AI, is hindered by mathematical limitations, and scientific breakthroughs are sort of connected to those mathematical limitations. If you can solve certain mathematical problems, you are going to unlock certain elements of breakthrough for improving the algorithms that are used. Mathematics is literally the key. And we have a nation in America that gives children 3 months off in the summer. That is a bad idea and probably one of the worst things that anybody can do in math education, especially if you want your child to reach their full math potential. When I teach math, and I do, I work in math and physics, but when I teach math, if I was to take 3 months off, and I teach math, but if I come back, I'm rusty. Oh, I gotta brush up on this, that, and the other. And then we have kids who are trying to learn math, and they're not yet solid, and we're giving them 3 months off. I don't know who came up with that idea. I know there was a time we did it because of farming. But right now, parents, please, I want to encourage you to run away from that idea. Find a tutoring center near you. Find somebody to help your child. Find a good website. Find a good resource. I have a free website that I'm going to put in the chat in a second here. Okay, so we need to realize every problem, every math problem or every math topic kids are learning came from real people. Math is not a cold, abstract subject. It was built by curious, persistent human beings. Euclid organized geometry to understand space. Newton and Leibniz invented the calculus. Euler connected fundamental constants to understand nature. Understanding the who and why makes math a compelling human story. Let's start teaching the history of math today, please. One of the strategies for helping your children reach their full math potential is they need to have a solid foundation. They need to know how to count, add, do fractions, right? Before we put algebra, geometry, and calculus on top of their house. They need a solid foundation. Rushing ahead makes invisible cracks that collapse later. We need to help children to understand all the pieces of the puzzle that they need to learn in order to get to advanced topics. I have a document that I'll share. If you leave your email in the chat, I will share a document with you with all the topics that if your children master those topics, calculus is going to be a breeze. It's going to be a joke. So they need to make sure that they have a solid foundation. The most common cause of high school math failure is a gap in foundational understanding. A shaky understanding of fractions becomes a barrier to algebra. And I could tell you why, because I teach both pre-algebra and algebra, which we're offering this summer, by the way, for anybody who wants to take our evening classes. 7 to 8 Eastern, we're going to do pre-algebra. 8 to 9 Eastern, we're going to do algebra concept. So if your children want to hang out in the evening doing some math problems, Mondays through Thursdays, for 6 weeks in the summer, we're available to help. So let's talk about how fractions and algebra are connected. Imagine someone tells you to add fractions of unlike denominators. I'm actually going to show this on the board when I stop, but let me just say one thing about it. When you want to add fractions of unlike denominators, you need to have a common denominator. When you're adding rational expressions later on in algebra, you need a common denominator. So the idea of a common denominator is relevant to both pre-algebra and algebra. It's just a little more complex when you get to algebra. So if you didn't know how to add fractions when you were doing pre-algebra, how are you going to add fractions now that you're doing algebra? It's just not going to work. Okay. So the counting to calculus framework insists that mastery must precede advancement always. We want to connect math history and stories and purpose. We want to show people from the Babylonian times to modern algebra, there are connections. Math comes alive when students know the why and the who. The quadratic formula was developed centuries ago from ancient Babylon, right? We see it on some of their tablets. And then Al-Khwarizmi did some of this work in the 7th, 8th, or in the 8th and 9th, about the 8th century AD. So students need to see the connection. When students understand the history, they're not just memorizing the formula, they're participating in a 4,000-year-old human journey. This sense of participation is deeply motivating. We need to create a supportive and structured environment for learning. The right environment multiplies every other strategy. The right environment can help any child who was already, quote unquote, very good at math and had the math gene, if you want to say that that's, okay, a huge factor. If somebody had that factor, they will do even way better. It's kind of like being good at basketball and having a good John Wooden. Imagine if John Wooden was your basketball coach. You're going to do pretty good, even if you are not the best. So a student's learning environment has an enormous impact on their math development. Consistency, encouragement, and access to expert guidance are necessities. One of my friends on the call here in Georgia is one of those experts that we can also reach out to. I'm available. I know someone in Chicago. We have several people that are willing to help your children go far in math. Please let us help your children reach their full math potential and not limit how far they go. Parents play a critical role by creating the conditions for learning. Now, if you look at some of the top performing countries in mathematics, you will notice that the parents play a huge role. Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Japan, South Korea. Now, I'm not saying that children should go to school from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is done in some of these countries for some children who want to go to certain top universities. They're going to school all the time. What I'm saying, though, is that parents should be there to nudge the child and say, you can do it, Johnny. You can do it. And parents, I just say this in love and respect, but please don't tell your child, you're just not a math person. I'm just not a math person. Our family is just not, we're just not math people. Please don't tell that to your child. I cannot tell you how many people would have missed out on opportunities if they believed that. If they believed that they were not math people, they would have not tried harder and they would have not become engineers and they would have not become doctors. Now, it's important that we help our children have the right mindset. There's a book by Carol Dweck called Mindset. There's a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. There's a book by Anders Ericsson called Peak. All these books I can provide to you all again later on if you want to review them. But these are very good resources to help children reach their math potential. The mindset is half the battle. So we need children to have the right mindset. Okay, the right environment multiplies every other strategy. Parents play a critical role, again, by creating the conditions for learning. Okay, we're going to take some questions, thoughts, comments, objections. I'm going to just scroll forward for a second and I'll come back and I'll stop on the Q&A. What specific challenges is your child facing right now? Or what specific challenges do you know that people are facing right now? Can you please put it in the chat? Let me just go forward and just mention we have our summer program, year-round tutoring, and then AI consulting for families and schools. These are the next workshops. We're going to do a workshop for the Parent AI workshop where we learn how to leverage AI to support your child's learning at home. This is open to anybody. Even if you're not a parent and you just want to learn how to use AI, we talk about agentic AI as well as regular AI. And then we're going to talk about navigating the future of education 2 weeks from now. That's going to be one of the subcategories of the topic, but the topic is actually going to be focused on the myth of the math brain. We're going to break that down, and then we're going to talk about how to prepare your children for the challenges and opportunities of tomorrow's world. Your child's math journey starts today. So register for a free consultation. My email is in the chat, is right there. You can also fill out our form on the tinyurl.com/counting to calculus. Let us go back and take some questions. So we're going to answer questions, have some discussion, and then wrap up. All these webinars will generally wrap up before the time is up. If there's no questions, I'm probably going to do some math problems on the board. So you might want to ask the question, except you want me to start doing math problems. Give me 1 second. Let me go back here. So I'm going to, once I stop the recording, I'm going to open the floor for I'm going to open the floor for what would you call it now? Like in-person discussion if people want to have that as well before we wrap up. So I didn't know if you want to type if there's any questions in the chat, and then before I open the floor, I'll open the floor and all the everybody can turn on their video. Questions, thoughts, comments, objections. Sorry, any questions, thoughts, comments, objections? Okay, let's go ahead and open the floor, and then we're just going to, let me just do that one math problem, and then I'm going to basically have us look at one math problem together. Let's do this. Okay, I'm going to do one problem on the board to make the case I was trying to make earlier on, and then we'll take, like I'll open all, the webinar for full-on audio chat discussions as well. So when I talked about fractions, what I said was 1/2 plus 1/3. In order to add these, you need a common denominator. So we multiply both sides, this one by 3/3 and this one by 2/2. Now in Nigeria, they do it a little different. We can talk about that another time. But this becomes 3/6 plus 2/6, and that's 5/6. In order to add fractions, a child needs to understand the prerequisites, such as finding the prime numbers and things like that. Now, here's what's interesting. In algebra, if someone says 1/x plus 2 plus 1/x plus 3, then you would multiply both sides by x plus 3 over x plus 3 on the left side. And on the right side, you do x plus 2 over x plus 2. So you're trying to get a common denominator. On this side, this is pre-algebra. On the left side, right? This is pre-algebra with fraction addition. On the right side, this is algebra. Why is that interesting? Because the same skill was used across the two. Now, on the left side, it's going to become x plus 3 divided by x plus 3, x plus 2. And then plus x plus 2. And then on this side, you have x plus 3, x plus 2. Right? Sorry if the marker is not writing too well there. But basically, that's what's happening on the left side and on the right side. So I think that it's critical that we realize the connection between the foundation we're building and where it's being used. That's why I actually provide teacher training for educators. And my goal is, one of the things for teachers is every teacher that teaches math should probably have an understanding of math from counting to calculus so that they see where what they're teaching connects in the bigger picture. You can tell me if you disagree in the discussion time, but that's my take on that. Okay, with that said, I'm going to stop recording and I'm going to open the chat and we can have a discussion. And those watching online, thanks for watching on the Zoom channel. I'm going to go ahead and just focus now on the webinar option. Our next webinar is in 2 weeks for the math, and then it's next week, Saturday, for AI, for those interested in AI. My email is just amosthemathguy@gmail.com. Okay, now I'm going to open the room. Actually, for those who want the email, it's just amosthemathguy @gmail.com. Okay. Sorry, it's hard to write with that, so I'll just type it in. So it's amosthemathguy@gmail.com. Okay. If you're interested in AI or math, you reach out. We'll be more than happy to help. That's the email. Okay. Now to the in-person chat.